my presentation. I'll go ahead and do my quick introduction. Just to give you guys a backdrop, I know a lot of you know my story, but it's always nice to kind of go into context again to kind of give you perspective on why I am who I am. So to start off, I'm a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force. He was a physician. And I had the opportunity, I was born in Northeast Italy and moved around Europe until I was 14, different Army bases, and then ultimately moved to Sierra Vista in Southern Arizona, where I went to high school. I went to college at Arizona State University, studied industrial engineering and economics, and then got into software development and consulting for a company that implemented software systems for government agencies. I moved around the country. I lived in DC, I lived in Puerto Rico for a couple of years on a big tax software project for the island. And then when Hurricane Maria hit, that project got put on hold. I got moved here to Louisville, and we implemented the EMIT system, which I know some of you guys are using on a day-to-day. And then from there, I transitioned away and got into commercial real estate. So now I'm with the Grisanti Group. We specialize in commercial brokerage, so buying, selling, and leasing commercial property. So this is my family. That's my mom in the middle, my dad in the back, just kind of peeking out. That's my wife now. We actually got married in November, so that was, we've been together for many years, so that's beautiful. My beautiful wife, Melanie, and that's our dog, Sophie, which is a cockapoo. So as I mentioned, how I can help, we help people lease, buy, and sell commercial property. And what I thought I'd do today is kind of give people perspective, because a lot of times when people think commercial real estate, they think massive skyscrapers and all these different buildings, but it's not always that the case. And so what I wanted to do is kind of go through some transactions that I've worked on over the last couple of years to give you some perspective on the stories of who I've worked with. So on the retail side, I sold a strip center this last year. The owner actually owned a physical therapy practice in the center, operated there for many, many years, and leased out the other spaces to tenants. She sold her business practice to one of her mentees, and then ultimately wanted to sell the strip center. So we were able to help her sell that last year, even in a weird environment where the interest rates were starting to spike. The transaction almost fell apart like 2 or 3 times, but luckily we were able to get it done, and we got it done at a very competitive price for her, so it was very good. This is a small strip center that I have a recurring client that I work with. He owns a nail salon. He just likes to buy retail properties for investment purposes. So we helped him buy the small strip center on Southside Drive. It has an Iraqi grocery store, Cricket, and then we were able to, just the Iraqi store and then the Cricket store. So the 2-tenant small retail center. The price point was just about $320,000. This one was an international grocery store from one of my clients. They're originally from, I believe, Somalia and the Congo. And they started an African grocery store, 1,300 square feet. We leased it up for 3 years. They did so well at this particular location. Now we're helping them find a second location for their grocery store. So really excited to see when people manifest their dreams into reality on that front. And then this one we just executed as a lease on Main and Clay. There used to be an ITAP brewery there. Now it's going to be a restaurant called Cured. They're in the active stages of a build out right now, and it's going to be open in June of 23. So that's a new restaurant concept that's going to be coming to the new area. On the multifamily front, it's obviously been very, very active for the last several years. This one was a gentleman who owned a boat repair business, and he had bought small multifamilies over the course of his lifetime, and he just wanted to be able to sell these particular properties. So there were 2 4-plexes side by side to each other, and we presented to the marketplace a lot of demand for these types of products, and so we were able to put it under contract for a very competitive price, very competitive terms, and we got them what they wanted. And ultimately now they rode off into the sunset, and they're able to, do what they want with the funds that they generated from that sale. This next transaction was actually somewhat of a challenge initially. We had listed it as an 8-plex earlier this year. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we had to take it off the market. And then earlier this year, with this high interest rate environment, you would think that it probably wouldn't have been as competitive. But contrary to popular belief, we split them up into 2 4-plexes, and the demand we got was gangbusters. I mean, the first one we sold well above asking, closed in a week, no contingencies. The next one is under contract currently with similar terms. And so it's a very active environment, particularly if you get in that sweet spot for these type of multifamily assets, they go very quickly. And then these two, I'll briefly touch on these. This was a 5-unit property on Hepburn Avenue. If you know the Bardstown Road, Baxter area, it's right down the street from there. It needed a little work, but there's still a lot of people looking for that type of product. And this one was on Lexington Road. So going into St. Matthews, very active area. People looking for these types of products. And it needed a lot of work, but again, it's all about location. And then on the industrial front, This is where, I've started to get a lot more clients on this front, which is obviously awesome. This one was a small space within the center. I represented a gentleman who owns a rug cleaning and repair business, a Persian rug and cleaning and repair business. He's been in that business for decades. He's originally from Iran, and he was a rug salesman for many, many, many years, and then he decided to start his own business 10 or 13 years ago, and he'd been operating out of his house for many, many years, and then he got a very large contract, and he needed to be able to have space to operate out of. So he leased out about 2,200 square feet in this particular center, 500 square foot of office, and then about 15 to 1,700 square feet of warehouse in the back of the drive-in door, so we can pull in a truck to be able to unload the rugs. So this one is a 10,000 square foot. There's three sections, so a total of about 30,000 square foot building. We took about 10,000 square foot warehouse, just straight warehouse, no office. My client was a wholesale business for convenience stores. So they think of all the things you can think of in a convenience store. These gentlemen buy in bulk, and then they store it in this warehouse. Convenience store owners come to the site, buy what they need to, and they'll transport it to them. So it was more of a storage and logistics site. This one was one of our more recent transactions. It was with Blinds Direct. They've been in business for many, many years. They relocated from their location, and now they're on Holloway Road. This was about 7,500 square feet. Their existing location was about 15,000, but it was a lot of empty space, a lot of things they just didn't need, so they consolidated into one area. Stayed in Bluegrass Park, which was important for them, and ultimately we were able to get them a site at a very competitive rate. We were able to negotiate a little bit. And then this one is a transaction I'm actively working on right now. It's here off of Shining Water Drive. It is a residential home, but it's zoned PEC. What PEC is Planned Employment Community, which allows for a lot of different contracting uses. So my client is a contractor. They do concrete work. They do high-end landscaping. And so what they're planning to do is tear down a house, build a warehouse, and then just kind of operate their facility on site. And it's about 0.6 acres. So as far as a good referral goes, as you kind of can see, it's a range of different individuals. It could be from large to small, any type of business owner, especially if they're getting started. I'm a good resource to have. I've written a couple of books on commercial real estate that kind of can help you guide through the process. So I'm happy to meet and talk to any type of business owner, just be that resource for them, even if they're not looking to buy commercial real estate or lease commercial real estate. On the investment front, I work with all these different types of investors, both locally and out of state. So if you know anyone who's looking for an investment product, whether it's multifamily, retail, industrial, even office, contrary to popular belief, if it's a good, well-located office, I think office is going to make a comeback in the next several years. And then residential agents. I've gotten several referrals from residential agents. If they don't feel comfortable working on a commercial transaction, I'm happy to offer a referral fee for that as well. So, questions?
I was just curious, the property that was a home, but it was zoned commercial, what was the list price, or how much did it sell for?
So it's currently under contract. It was listed for $235. Once we close, I'll share it. We got it below that price. Yeah. Well, it needed a lot of work. It was built in '51. The gentleman who lived there lived there since it was built, he had unfortunately moved out to a retirement community. It was just his sons were selling it, and it hadn't been worked on for many years. A lot of structural issues, so it was just better to tear it down. It was a 1,000 square foot house or 1,100 square foot house.
So you just made a comment because you feel like the office space is going to make a comeback.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that?
Well, I think it's a mix of different things. You're already starting to see larger companies say at least have some time in the office space. I think anytime there's a rapid change in any environment, there is going to be a pullback that comes with that. But I do think that there is going to be a point in time where office demand starts to increase. Now, whether it's going to come back to where it was before, that remains to be seen. But I still think that if you own a good product, like an office in a very good location, and it's well managed or maintained, I think it's going to be a strong investment long term.
So right now you're hearing a lot about multifamily and as far as cash flow is not there due to interest rates going up and how everyone thinks that their property's worth three times what maybe what it might be. What are you seeing in that space as far as people actually being able to buy assets that have cash flow?
Sure, if you need debt, it's going to be tough. But there's a lot of money out there. So like in the case of the other transaction, we actually sold. We listed for $335. We sold for $360. No contingencies. Closed in a week. It was a 1031 exchange.
Okay.
So they have the money, they have cash, they're like, we like it, we don't need an inspection, we don't need an appraisal, we'll close in a week.
Now, are those same, those individuals that are bringing cash to the table, are they seeing a decent cash return on it as far as their monthly cash flow, are they seeing a decent cash flow?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, let's say in that particular instance, you had, these closed for 360, the rents that were generated from that particular property were like 3,300 a month, they could probably push them to 36. So,
Okay.
you know, your cash on cash return is probably gonna be like 7 or 8%. So it's not bad. Especially if you're from California or other markets where it's like, and what are you getting over there? I mean, it's almost non-existent.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and then I've written a couple books, but if you wanted to just listen to the audio book, it's free. You can scan that. You guys can go ahead and. This is from the business owner's perspective. So if you're looking to buy a building as a business owner, this is all you would need to know to buy a building. And I also have a book called Before You Sign That Lease for those individuals who are looking to lease. I'm finalizing a book right now called Before You Sell That Building, which is from the business owner's perspective. I've operated my business for 20 to 30 years, and now I want to sell my building. What do I have to do? So.
Good stuff.